In this B2B growth hack video, I'm going to provide you with some tips on how to cost effectively develop and monitor a global sales development team from square one using Google Sheets and a few other affordable resources. So why is this a growth hack? Well, with an average of $3 per hour per sales development rep, if you find them through Upwork or Elancers or even LinkedIn, if you invest in the time in finding these individuals and train them and work with their careers, this staff is going to add to your bottom line. To help make sense of this B2B growth hack, I'm going to start with the end. And that is, I'm going to provide you with a visual on the end product that your lead acquisition investments and the telesales team are going to deliver. That is, we're going to have a look at the number of contacts that are going to be entering your pipeline. We're going to be looking at dial volumes, we'll look at follow-up activity, and we'll also look at audience responses. And when that's done, you'll have the context to look at the Google Sheet and see why we've laid it out the way we have. And then we'll also get into some of the mechanics of field selections, pick lists, and things like that that will help make it be very smooth. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and dive into the analytics. So the first set of analytics that we want to look at is when we want to know what our lead generation is. And you see on your screen that we've broken it down from organic leads versus paid leads. Now, when we're paying for the leads, obviously we want to see a steady pipeline of those new contacts that are coming in. So you see that you're able to use in a typical tool, you can do a date range query and it's going to show you how many new leads are coming in from your different sources. So here we're looking at organic leads versus paid leads. And paid leads are obviously efforts that you may be making with Google AdWords, content syndication. If you hired that data researcher to do LinkedIn connections, those would be regarded as paid leads. Now, if you want to break down each individual source, you're going to be able to do that as well through the Google Sheet setup. So if I do the last 7 days, here I'm able to see how many leads came in from business to community per day versus Datanyze. It's another provider that we use. And then we also have the Salesforce App Exchange, which we would regard as an organic lead because it's a marketplace listing for us. So these are the high level lead source or lead generation reports you're going to get thanks to the Google setup that we're going to get into. In my next stack of analytics, what I want to know is about my telesales reps activities. So here we're plotting, have they dialed once or twice out to individuals. So those are the number of times dialed per contact. And again, we're able to get a timeline so we can see how active they are with calling people and then calling them back. Okay, so this is my first time dialed, and this is the second time dialed to an individual. So the next stack that we have is we want to know, well, how many calls that they made. In this instance, you see 149 calls were made. How many of those calls were actually connected, and how many people weren't available? Did they leave a voicemail? Did they leave a second voicemail? Or they have simply not called that contact because they just haven't gotten around to it. So again, we're going to see our range, and we're going to be able to see the activity of the result through a date range. Okay. So this is how we're making sure that if we've got these remote workers on hire, and as long as they're populating their Google Sheet, which again we're going to have a look at that in a minute or two, you're going to be able to see how active they are and what the results have been when they make those dials. Our final analytics set is the response that we're getting from our leads. We're wanting to know if they're interested, not interested, or if the data that we're receiving is outdated. So the interested is going to coincide with how well we're doing our targeting. Are we looking after the right audience? Are we hitting them at the right time? Now, a lot of it obviously is going to be luck of the draw because it is a numbers game. But I will say that when we're doing these, we usually have this coinciding with a drip marketing campaign to at least try to soften up the shores a little bit for the teleresponse reps before they make the phone call. So really, there's a topic that the person may have on hand that they're already aware of before our teleresponse person makes that phone call. So again, I'm interested, if we're paying for leads, to know how many people we were able to get interest from over the last number of days. Now you can also break this down further. You may recall the data source. You could also break it down to see the lead response over the lead source. For example, business to community or Datanyze, App Exchange as well. So that's the analytics stack, the base analytics stack that we're working with. We have some other business to business growth hacks that will work on through some of the deeper analytics you can do. But I think we're in good shape here to go into the next section, which is to actually look at the Google Sheet itself. Before we start to dive into the Google Sheet, we should point out why you're even using the Google Sheet beyond the benefits that you get by being able to support and manage a global sales development staff. And the reason is simple, is that you'll find that if you're doing your cost per lead programs, you're going to get a ton of garbage that you simply do not want in your CRM. So if you use Google Drive, it's a way for you to conveniently get all the different contacts together in one place, get them organized and staged for marketing, and then at that point you're adding value through the telesales efforts, the sales development efforts, and the email marketing, nurture drips, etc. So that is the most important case, or one of the most important points, I should say, about using Google Sheets to stage all of your new leads before they're quote unquote CRM ready. So having said that, now let's go ahead and get through the sheet and explain what it's all about. Now we're looking at a Google Sheet that we share across multiple disciplines and individuals located around the world. Now, we've set up our Google Sheet to have different tabs for the individual contact sources that are coming in. So we find that that's just a really easy way to administer and have a division of labor based on contact source. And I can see on my screen that one of our sales managers is actually in the data right now, and he may be cleaning some things up or taking a look at some of the information we're getting about the people who are interested to see if he can glean some sweet spots in our marketing. Now, in this particular marketing program that we're doing, and you may have heard about this, is that there are some people that we know who use Salesforce. If they're using one of our competitors, we've detected some weaknesses in there. And how we came to know that was basically knowing who from Salesforce was typically coming to Makesbridge for business. Now, obviously that applies to any company. So if you have those sweet spots and knowing where you're generating the most interest from and the profile of that user, that's basically your sweet spot, and that's going to drive your investments in your lead generation. And that's another tutorial video. So the way we have it set up is we've got all the basic fields. So we're going to get into the data model. So we have all the basic contact information that you typically use. Now, the one thing that's pretty good here is the score. Now, a score out there, if you work with a tool like Datanyze or Lead Ferret, what that's doing is they're giving you the comfort level that they have that the email address is accurate. Okay. The other field that we have is the LinkedIn. Now, Datanyze gives that to us, and it's just another way for us to get some information about that individual and do a little bit of research before we reach out to them. And then likewise, if there's not a high confidence rate that the email is good, then at least we have LinkedIn as recourse to reach out to the person to see if we can connect. Now, where I really want to focus on the data here to help manage the team, as we'd seen in the analytics, what we want to do is monitor the activity. So in column Z, I'm able to see how many calls have been logged to each individuals. Okay, so that's our call velocity. Now, the next thing we have is our call result. So we have a pick list that we created because we want to make sure that all of our data is conforming because we're going to be doing our analytics. Then the last column that we have that I'll point out is the lead source response. So that end result that we got as a result of the dial and once we were connected. Now, it's the task or the objective of the sales development rep to get all of these responses filled out one way or another. So that's just this constant cycle of reaching out to try to get that person on the phone to just pulse them on where they're at. So I want to conclude this B2B growth hack with some instructions on how to set up your spreadsheet to ensure you're going to get some conforming data so you can run these analytics with accuracy. So obviously the field values have got to be conforming. So the way you do this is you do it with data validation. And basically what these are going to be is you just enter different fields into the cell, and that'll ensure that you get a pick list and that all of your data operators are going to work with, again, some very highly conforming data values. So the way we like to do this, again, is we have our number of calls that are being logged, and whenever a teleresponse person makes a dial, actually, then they're going to increment the dial count, or the call count in this case. Then when they have achieved some result, it may be that they didn't get through or what have you, it's what did they get. So again, what we did is we used our data validation, and we had all of our different cells that the teleresponse rep can choose from. Then the final response that we have, or the final field that we have, is for lead source response. And again, we have our pick list here. And if you click data validation, again, you see all of them. Now, we've created a free spreadsheet for you to use, and we encourage you to do it. We hope that you test this out. It's only take a couple hours. If you get in touch with Odesk, or if you get in touch with Elance, even if you go to LinkedIn, you can find people who are going to range between probably $5 an hour to $15 an hour, depending on where they're located. But this is a fantastic way for you to get started. So I hope you take advantage of this growth hack, and definitely would like to hear from you to let us know if this worked out well for you. If you have any suggestions on how we can improve these tutorials, please get in touch with myself, j.adams@makesbridge.com. Get in touch with our sales team, our support team, or whomever, because this is about you and trying to help you be more successful in today's business environment. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to our next video. Thanks.